Hello, and welcome to Things We Said Today, our bi-weekly podcast about anything and everything to do with the Beatles, collectively and individually, past, present, sometimes even the future. I'm Allan Kozinn, the author of The Beatles from the Cavern to the Rooftop, and Got That Something, How the Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand Changed Everything, and with Adrian Sinclair, the McCartney Legacy series, of which volumes 1 and 2 are out now, and 3 will soon be in the works. I'm joined by my esteemed co-hosts, Ken Michaels, who you know as the host of the syndicated Beatles radio show Every Little Thing, and co-host of the solo Beatles podcast Talk More Talk. He also has his own YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio, which is packed with Beatles related stuff, and you should check it out. He'll tell you at the end how to get there. Hello, Ken.
Hi, Allan. Hi, Darren. Great.
Hello.
Hey, and also Darren DeVivo, who has been a DJ at WFUV FM 90.7 in the New York area since February 1984. And if you're not in the vicinity of New York, you can hear him and everything else at WFUV at WFUV.org. And he is also a co-host of Talk More Talk with Ken.
Yes. Hello, Alan. Hello, Ken again.
Okay.
Nice to see you again, Ken.
In a
You see
while.
quite a lot of each other.
Okay. So today we're going to have a look at what each of the three of us think of as our 20 favorite McCartney tracks recorded in the 21st century. Um, and it was, I don't know, I found it harder to pick than I had expected. It's very easy to pick favorites from the 70s and the 80s, but I hadn't really thought of how much stuff he had done since 2000 and how much of it is really good stuff that you want to hear again, uh, regularly. So we've each made lists, and we'll get to that. Mine is totally illegible, but it's there. Uh, but first, the news from Ken. Ken?
Thank you, Allan. We'll start with uh, lots of news about Ringo. Once again, he will hold his annual Peace and Love event on his birthday, which is next Monday, July 7th. He asks his fans all around the world to say or think the words peace and love at exactly 12 noon. And many of his friends are there to celebrate his birthday, and he always invites musicians to perform his songs, solo and Beatles, at this event. And this will be streamed, as it has been for the last several years. Ringo just wrapped up his All-Star Band tour with a date in Omaha, Nebraska on June the 27th, and he will return with the All-Stars September 10th to the 27th, 6 of those dates at the Venetian in Las Vegas. Now, Ringo, we haven't even talked about this, Alan. We have with Darren on Talk More Talk, but Ringo made some changes to his set list,
Well,
bringing back both Honey Don't
mhm.
and the No No song.
Hmm.
Both those songs he hasn't done for quite a long time. And thankfully, adding one of his new songs, doing the title track to Look Up. I was very pleased with the show that I saw in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And as Darren was at
Yeah.
Radio City,
Yep.
it's really a tremendous show. And of course, the band's on fire. This band could play so well in their sleep. They all know each other so well, and they've been together with this lineup for quite a long time. And there's more news about Ringo, as SiriusXM's Beatles channel will have a new show devoted to Ringo and the All-Stars, featuring live music from bands past and present. Resident DJ Tom Frangione is writing the scripts, and All-Star Band music director Mark Rivera, who's been a guest here on this show, is actually hosting the show. Some interesting news here about Ringo, who will be returning to the longest running American animated TV show, The Simpsons. In what will be the final episode of season 36, The show projects 35 years into the future in which Marge Simpson dies. The episode is titled "A Stranger Things," where it is revealed that Marge has married Ringo in heaven. Ringo tells Marge, "Love, will be late for the heaven buffet. There's a shrimp tower." And Marge responds, "Okay, Ringo, I'm just so glad that we're allowed to marry different people in heaven." If you fear this is the show's very last episode, fear not. The Simpsons have been renewed for another 4 seasons.
Wow.
40 years,
Yeah.
that show. Is that
I I remember having a t-shirt that said "Eat My Shorts" on it when it was pretty
Yep,
new.
I remember that.
And Darren just told me right before we started to record this show some news from Ultimate Classic Rock, where they ranked their top 15 albums of the year so far. We're halfway done.
Yes.
And the good news is, Darren, you want to tell them?
Yes, Ringo's on the list. And should I run down the list? I'll do it quickly. Uh, Number 20, Skeleton by Ghost, whoever they are. Uh, Parasomnia from Dream Theater, 14. Curious Ruminant from Jethro Tull, 13. Dreams on Toast from The Darkness, number 12. Number 11, Ben Montench from The Heartbreakers, his second solo album, The Melancholy Season. Elton John and Brandy Carlisle's album, Who Believes in Angels, is 10. Number 9 is recently released album of mixes from The Cure, Mixes of a Lost World. The Doobie Brothers at 8 should be higher. Walk This Road. Little Feat's new album, Strike Up the Band, is 7. Thunderball by Melvins is 6. And ladies and gentlemen, at number 5, Ringo Starr, Look Up.
All
And
right.
the albums that finished ahead of Ringo, Foxes in the Snow from Jason Isbell. The telephone's ringing. Hi. Ignore that. That's Jason Isbell calling me. Neil Young, one of the 15,000 albums he put out this year, Oceanside Countryside, number 3, and his brand new album with his band, the Chrome Hearts, Talking to the Trees, was number 2, and that's Neil Young and the Chrome Hearts, number 1. The newly released box set tracks to the lost albums from Bruce Springsteen, but Ringo coming in at number 5. Very cool.
Mhm.
Nice to see that album getting the respect it deserves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know who that was calling, but sorry about that.
I am curious to hear the Doobie Brothers because I've heard, and
Excellent. Yeah.
I've seen them recently in concert.
Mm.
You've got Michael McDonald and Tom Johnson together,
Mhm.
you know, along with
Yeah.
Patrick.
Really good album.
And they're fantastic live. Go see them.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the Doobies. All right, Paul McCartney was spotted at the Glastonbury Festival strictly as a spectator, not as a performer, posing with members of the Searchers, John McNally and Frank Allan, and Paul watched as the band gave their final performance, the last concert of the Searchers, after a career of more than 60 years. And Paul was also there to watch Danny Harrison perform on stage. You can
Nice.
actually see some pictures online of Paul at the show,
Yeah.
kind of on the side of the stage looking on. And speaking of the Beatles' sons, Zach Starkey has gotten both Sean Lennon and James McCartney to appear on a new song by Zach's supergroup, Mantra of the Cosmos. The song they play on is called Rip Off, and the band also includes Oasis's bassist Andy Bell and Sean Ryder and Mark Besberry from Happy Mondays. Zach has said the song isn't a Beatles imitation, it's Mantra of the Cosmos with Sean and James as a part of it. I have not heard the song yet. I understand they had a snippet on Instagram
Yeah.
that
I
Zach.
heard it.
Did you heard it?
Yeah.
How's it sound to you? Uh-oh.
But it
Darren.
was a snippet.
Okay.
And you could hear James singing, like not the lead, but like a harmonies. I couldn't see where or hear anything that was shown, but it was just yeah, again, a piece and may not have even been a good mix or whatever they threw up there.
Hmm. Okay, well, I'll wait till I hear the whole song and get used to it before I say anything. Yesterday, July 1st, Apple Corps announced a new CEO for the company, replacing Jeff Jones, and that's Tom Green. The British executive previously fulfilled operating roles for the Harry Potter franchise, and Green is currently the COO of the company called Blast, described as a competitive entertainment company working with the biggest video game developers and publishers in the world on the production, commercialization, and audience growth of their esports programs. Blast has grown 20-fold during his time at the company, opening offices in London, Copenhagen, Berlin, New York, and Mumbai. And he will remain on the board of Blast. Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Olivia Harrison, and Sean Ono Lennon say, "We are thrilled to welcome Tom Green as CEO. We have a lot of exciting plans, and Tom's experience and vision make him the perfect person to join us in making it all happen." And Tom Green was quoted as saying, "It is a huge honor to lead Apple Corps into this new phase of its history. Like so many people around the world, I grew up in a household obsessed with the Beatles and their music at a time when the world might need more of the Beatles spirit. There are so many new and innovative ways to bring their unique magic to all generations of fans. I cannot wait to get started." Be interesting to see what he brings to the table.
Yep.
That's got to be a thrill getting a gig like that.
Yeah,
But also the pressure.
this is true.
And
Well,
and the
once
politics. I mean, different people want different things out or not want them out, or I'd really be interested in sitting at a board meeting and
Hmm.
hearing what goes
Yeah.
on there. But uh, I do hope they sort of pick up the pace of releases a bit of things we want and need, as opposed to you know things that we sort of just will shrug off. Like, I don't think that remixes of the Red and Blue album were necessary at this point. I
Hmm.
would have preferred Rubber Soul or Hard Day's Night, or,
right.
box sets of archival box sets of those things. That seems to me to be job one. And I hope that he can sort of shepherd those things through. And then, you want to go back and do a remix of love songs, fine, I don't care, but at least get the archival stuff out. Um, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's not counting all the video releases of concerts and stuff,
Oh
and
yeah.
audio releases that could possibly be done with today's technology to
Mhm.
improve. It's endless now what you can do because of the software that's out there and what Peter Jackson's done, and
Yep.
let's wait and see.
Hmm.
But like I've said, they've always been good at putting out something every year. Ever since the Sergeant Pepper box set came out, every year there's been something.
Right.
There will be an all-star Beach Boys Brian Wilson tribute show happening actually tomorrow, since we're recording this July 2nd. This will be at the Canyon Inn, Agora Hills. This is being done by the Get Together Foundation in cooperation with Rockseller Productions. One of the honorary musical guests will be Lawrence Juber. Celebrating will be past Beach Boys members Blondie Chapman and David Marks. Carney Wilson will be there, as will Stephen Kalinich, who co-wrote Little Bird and Be Still with Dennis Wilson, and a song recorded as a duet between Brian Wilson and Paul McCartney called A Friend Like You. Okay, and I know that that event will be streamed. If I get a link, I'll see if we can include that in our description box for that. We mourn the loss of Mick Ralphs, a
Yeah.
founding member of Mott the Hoople and Bad Company. He wrote or co-wrote several classic songs with Bad Company's great singer Paul Rodgers, including Can't Get Enough, Moving On, and Feel Like Making Love. Ralphs was also friends with George Harrison, and together they wrote one song which was supposed to be on George Harrison's Somewhere in England album, but was rejected by Warner Brothers, the song called Flying Hour, which I felt had so much commercial appeal and really should have been on the original
I
Somewhere.
didn't know that.
Yeah. You
Hmm.
didn't know that they wrote the
That
song?
one, I didn't know they wrote it together. That one passed by me.
Also, celebrating the 40th anniversary of Live Aid, CNN will run a special called When Rock and Roll Took Over the World. This is on July 13th at 9 p.m., including interviews with many of the performers, plus historic concert footage and rare archival footage of performances and backstage footage. I haven't seen Paul listed as being interviewed, but we'll see. Mojo Magazine. Their new August issue has the Beatles on the front cover with an emphasis on the year 1965. The cover reads Bigger, Better, Higher, and the year they blew their minds and ours. The issue explores how the Beatles hit new highs, metaphorically and literally, and took their music to another level. A brand new two-volume book series is coming out called The Beatles Hit Singles by Martin Orkin. The series covers all the Beatles' US and UK singles in depth, with part one called Beatlemania, covering the years 1962 through 65, and part two called Magical Mystery Tour, covering 1966 to 1970. Each book includes iconic color images from picture sleeves, plus details on who wrote each song, who sang each song, and the instruments each Beatle played on each song, recording and release dates, how the songs charted, reviews at the time, and the author's penetrating analysis of each song. Martin was around at the time when Please Please Me put the Beatles on the map in the UK, and he got to observe Beatlemania unfold step by step. Part one in the series is due out this November. Part two, they say hopefully next November. And thanks to John Bazzini for this information. I've been meaning to say in our news breaks, the recent TV commercial for Airbnb has been using the song Magical Mystery Tour, and it certainly sounds like the backing tracks of the Beatles there. It's not with the Beatles singing, but it's in the middle of the song. And if you listen to the commercial, it certainly sounds like
Hmm.
what's on the Beatles record. So it's either the Beatles recording or a very good copy of it right there by the
Klaatu. It's
what's that?
Klaatu. Klaatu reunited. And
Yeah. But I'm sure some of you have picked this up on this new TV commercial. We send out happy birthday wishes to Frida Kelly, who on July 14th will be turning the big 80. She'll always be good old Frida to us. And at this time, I just want to close by thanking everybody for all the birthday greetings they sent to me while I was on vacation for, well, the last week and a half or so. Thanks to all of you. It made my day, and I'd like to reply to all of you, but I haven't enough pens. Of course, all you got to do is click like these days. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that's all the news that I have for you this time.
Okay, so swirly thing, and here we are on the other side of the swirly thing. And it's time to talk about Paul McCartney in the 21st century. We've each got a list, and we'll just run down them, and I guess if either of the others of us have comments to make, we'll comment. Shall we start with who should we start
Ken.
with?
Start with Ken.
Start with Ken. Yep.
I'm checking my alphabetizing while we're doing this.
I think for all of us, these are all studio recordings. We're not including live recordings at all.
No, yeah.
Right.
Is all chronological. And it's interesting in a way that in the 2000s, Paul, it takes him much longer to release each album. But every time he does that, he's also got bonus tracks on the album. So it's still, he's put out a lot of material. And so many times those bonus songs are amongst the best, I think. A
Mhm.
lot of people have commented that some of those songs should have been on the album and maybe taken off a few of the songs that were released on the albums. But I'm going to start with Lonely Road from Driving Rain, which I think is an Absolutely great opening track and a solid rocker. I've always loved the song. I'm glad that when Driving Rain came out, Paul performed it live. I wish he'd bring it back again. I just love the whole feel of the song and the build-up, especially with Paul's vocals when he starts to scream towards the end and harmonize with himself. And it's got a great hook to it. It's kind of what I call the stranglehold of Driving Rain, similar in that way from Press to Play onto Driving Rain. So Lonely Road is my first choice. And there's a lot of songs here that I wanted to put in, but to me, this is narrowing it down to 20. Jenny Wren had to be there. It's probably in my top three of songs from Paul in this century. Absolutely exquisite song, very beautiful melody, haunting melody, and love the acoustic guitar playing on it. Loves Paul's voice. He goes way up high on it, and it's kind of what he called the daughter of Blackbird, and you can understand why. Of course, she got the bird there with the wren,
Mhm.
but I love the acoustic guitar playing from Paul on it, and it's an absolute gem. It really should be a classic in Paul's catalog. If you guys want to say anything, feel free to as I'm
Sure.
singing these songs.
No.
Thank
Mhm.
you, Darren. Too Much Rain. Love that song. Love the sentiment in it. And, you know, sometimes the background behind the songs mean a lot to me and might even influence why I feel the way I do. But Paul has said that that particular song was influenced by the song Smile, which was written by Charlie Chaplin. Smile When Your Heart Is Breaking. A
Mhm.
lot of people have covered the song, and Jerry Lewis used it as the theme during the muscular dystrophy telethons. And so, if you follow the lyrics, he tells you to do the opposite of when you're in pain. It's the same kind of concept, and it's a gorgeous melody, and I love the fact that, it's simple production. It's just a few instruments, no big orchestra, a nice simple solo. It works so well for that particular song. It's a very powerful message and one of the many songs about, thinking positive. In a tough world, try to smile through it, go through the pain. I love that song. Friends to Go is in there. That's another song. I just hope that a lot of these songs that I mentioned are not the ones that you picked because, then you get frustrated because you don't know what to say. But Friends to Go is the song that George said was kind of influenced by George Harrison, trying to have a George Harrison uh, feel to it or sound to it, uh, or a guitar sound to it, how he would play the song. But it's all about waiting for your friends to go on the other side when the time comes. And it's very catchy and I think very poignant. Where as Paul gets older, he's talking about the inevitable. And, one of the songs which I probably rate as his greatest song of this century is specifically about that. But Friends to Go is just one that I was instantly drawn to when Chaos and Creation came out. That album is such a masterpiece to me, and a lot of people point to it because there's so many personal lyrics from Paul when he reaches in and tells you things about himself, and it's also because of the production of it. Some people consider it like his Plastic Ono Band in a way, but it's just Friends to Go is such a memorable song, and I love that one. I love Ever Present Past. Um, that is a song that is so hypnotic for me that every time I bring the song back and I listen to it, it stays in my head for days. There's something about the hook of that song, and it's catchy. Many times I've said catchy as hell. Ever Present Past is that. It's if you want to call it an earworm, he's got this tremendous gift still of songs that stick in your head and stay there. And that's one of those songs. It's also really fun video. I love the dancing from Paul and all the women around him and the kind of simple moves of what Paul does, but it's choreographed really well. So I love Ever Present Past for that. That's part of the reason why I love the song. House of Wax. At that time, if you'd have said Paul doesn't sing as good as he used to, listen to House of Wax. Listen to him do the song live. He's hitting these real high notes, and that's, I don't know, it could be one of the last great moments of him with a really powerful voice and a high range and very edgy. And I wish he'd bring it back as a live song. Then there's the song that I was just referring to as probably as great a song of the century, The End of the End, which I think in terms of lyrics is so poetic, it flows so well, and it's all about how he'd like the world to handle when he passes away. Who'd have thought that Paul would ever write a song like that, so deep? And and as Paul has said, it was influenced by an Irish wake where people there try to be happy and celebrate life instead of mourning death.
Mhm.
And so if you follow the lyrics of that song, on the day that I die, I'd like jokes to be told. That's what it's all about. Very brave song for Paul to write about, confronting the inevitable when it does happen. Um, Sing the Changes is in there from the Fireman. Um, it's a pretty repetitive song, but I love the melody behind it. I love the production behind it, and it really sounds so contemporary. A lot of the stuff from the Fireman, I could see the roots of that coming from McCartney 2 and Press to Play and Driving Rain, a lot of the electronic stuff and the atmospheric stuff. Um, and Sing the Changes is one of those songs. Um, And I was very happy when Electric Arguments came out that a lot of radio stations did play that song. Speaking of Electric Arguments, I love Dance Till We're High, which I think is a
Mhm.
very commercial song. To me, even though it's called The Fireman and it's the collaboration with Youth, it could fit on a lot of McCartney songs. Dance Till We're High is also very, very commercial. Love the melody and all the production behind it. Um, and I had to put one of the bonus tracks from Memory Almost Full in there, which is Why So Blue,
Wow.
which sounds so different, but it has a gorgeous melody behind it. And I just sometimes these bonus tracks from Paul, you're baffled at, this is just an extra song that he throws on there. And it's so strong. A lot of these songs I see and hear in my head as hits, and Why So Blue is one of them. Um, then I have to move on to Kisses on the Bottom. And I don't know if any of us are going to do any songs that Paul's covering. None of the songs, all the songs that I have are all originals. But as much as I love My Valentine, I love Only Our Hearts much more. I think it's a great melody. It really stands out. Sounds like a classic song from the past, whether it has the hallmarks of a George Gershwin or an Irving Berlin. It's got that feel to it. It's a song that I can hear Tony Bennett sing or Frank Sinatra sing. Um, it's just simply gorgeous. I wish that song would be brought out as a potential classic of the future from Paul's catalog. Okay. Any of you guys want to say anything about these songs?
No, because I'm enjoying your list, and a lot of them, there's going to be overlap.
There's a lot of overlapping.
I think you're basically no, describing it good. I mean, like that you picked. I found it hard. What was the song you picked again that was the non-album track?
Why So Blue?
Yeah, I'm glad you picked that because I went sorted through all of the songs. I needed to refresh my memory because I don't know them as well. And I did come up with one that I included on my list from an unusual place. But No, no comments. Just in listening and
Yeah. And sometimes, and I've always said McCartney is such a master of melody. And Why So Blue? I love the melody behind it, but it also sounds like nothing else he's written before. And I don't know how that's possible considering the hundreds of songs that he's written there.
yeah, yeah.
You could say it's another ballad, but it's all in the way that it's constructed. It sounds very different and fresh. I do like a lot of the stuff that he's done for movies. One of which was I Want to Come Home, which was in the Robert De Niro film. Everybody's Fine. And it's a very nice ballad with orchestration. Again, pretty melody, very simple sentiment about wanting to come back to your home, to the people that you want to be with, to your family. And it's just a beautiful tune. And
Hmm.
I just wish more people would be aware of the stuff that he does for films because he sneaks in some real gems there. From the new
Probably
album,
hasn't, he probably has enough of those that he could put out an album of just his film songs.
yeah, I wish he would.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
It's a lot more than Live and Let Die, folks. Early days, I had to put in there, and I always hear in my head Paul explaining why he wrote the song because of there was a young female fan of his that was describing something that happened, in the past in the early days of the Beatles, and Paul is saying, no, you're wrong there about the way it was, and she's trying to correct him as though she would know more than he would. So, that's part of the reason why he wrote that song, talking about his early memories from the Beatle years, and other people want to spout out what it was like when they weren't there. So I
Mhm.
think it's a very strong message in and of itself. Also, Queenie Eye, I love that song, and I love the rock edge that it has to it. That was like a baseball type game, stickball type game, that was played by Paul in his youth. I love the title track to New, which really has a Beatles sound to it. I remember when it first came out, I was thinking about maybe a Penny Lane sound, possibly, but it's another one of those songs where, he writes these hooks and they're stuck in your head. And I especially love, and I kind of wish he did this live. I love the way it ends, that a cappella ending where everyone is harmonizing with each other. It's just them.
Yeah.
They didn't
Hmm.
do that live, but it's a real cool way to end that song. I also love I Can Bet, which I think should have been a single. Not that, we're at a stage where, having a hit single for someone of his age is impossible because the radio stations that play that kind of stuff play mainly younger artists. But it's a very catchy song there, and it's another one. A couple of listens and you're hooked. Um, I love Hope for the Future, especially not only the song itself, but I like all the orchestration that was built behind it. For someone, some people might think it's overproduced, that particular song. It's kind of like almost the same approach to The Long and Winding Road that Phil Spector did, but Paul liked it for this song, and Giles Martin was the one who produced Hope for the Future, which was used for a video game. And, Paul is always great about talking about positive messages and having hope in the future. And his lyrics are simple, but they're really strong. And it fits his vocal range. He was great when he did it live for a short time on tour. Wish he'd bring it back again. And it just works for that particular purpose for the video game. Could also work for as a song in a movie. Um, Speaking of songs from a movie, In the Blink of an Eye, which is another song
Oh, wow.
that was used. It's very pretty. I love the fact that the arrangement of it starts off with a long introduction, a piano introduction in the very beginning, but it's a very pretty melody. And it's another one that I think works as a movie song. I think Paul has a good head for these things, but I just wish that it'd be brought out more and people would hear them. Um, and I love his vocals on it. I want to just throw in a couple songs from Egypt Station. I think Dominoes was one of the strongest songs from it. Um, and I Don't Know, the opening cut, which is a great ballad. And I love the lyrics of that song. Um, that's 20 right there. And just to throw in a few extra ones, Nothing for Free, I love a lot. I love the contemporary feel of that song, Frank Sinatra's Party, and Get Started.
Too.
Has real wings sound to it. So those are the ones that I picked.
Not a bad list. But I mean, like I said in the intro, I mean, he has so much good stuff from the
Yeah.
last 25 years that it's almost surprising just because you think of him as a 60s and 70s guy. I mean,
Not,
even us, or even me. um,
no.
I mean, knowing that he's done so much, but I just hadn't. I think I was just surprised at how many of these tracks I really like, and want to revisit, and or in a lot of cases almost don't have to revisit because I know them in the way that I know stuff from the 70s. So yeah, it's been an astonishingly long and productive and um, you know satisfying run.
Mhm.
Do you want to go, Darren, or should I? You still
Sure, sure.
alphabetizing?
I'm actually having problems here with my math. I lost two songs somewhere. I ended up doing 25, but I can't find a few of them. So I'm going to, and I have them in alphabetical order, to mix them up a bit. So to break up the, and there's a few of them here I'm looking at going, what album's that on? It's like, but, so for my list, and I'm going to try to find where I lost a couple of songs. We start off with Come On to Me,
Hmm.
coming from Egypt Station. That's my first pick. A song I don't think I was too crazy about when the album first came out. It grew on me though. Then how about Cut Me Some Slack,
Hmm.
which he did with the Nirvana guys,
Mhm.
Dave Grohl, Chris Novoselic,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And Pat Smear
Mhm.
also, from the Sound City Reel to Reel album soundtrack thingy, which I think was 2013. So cut me some slack. So that's two. Count with me, won't you? And then three, Driving Rain. The much the much maligned Driving Rain album, which so many people don't like. No, Ken likes it. I like it a lot. In fact, it's possible the majority of the songs on my list come from Driving Rain, I think. I'm not even going to go back and count that because I'll get all confused.
That's interesting.
Driving Rain's one of those albums that, you don't, I don't, you listen to it and it works as an album, and then you break the songs apart and you realize individually some of these songs are fantastic. And I don't know, I'm rambling now, but Driving Rain will be my third song. Going on to number four. Ken, you picked this one, Ken, and I was going to chime in, but I didn't want to interrupt you. This is a song I can't listen to. It makes me too sad. The end of the end. From Memory Almost Full. It got played on, I heard it like not that long ago. Possibly the Beatles channel, I would think might have played it. I was getting all messed up and choked up and stuff that when Paul talking about the day he dies, I don't can't deal.
Hmm.
I'm gonna start crying right now.
It's a
Think
brilliant.
about the Mets. Okay, that broke that up now. Okay, now I'm angry. All right, so that's four songs I think we have. So number five, from McCartney 3, Find My Way. Okay. And then Fine Line, which I think you picked, Ken, right?
No, I didn't.
You didn't pick, oh, you Ever Present Past. I always get Ever Present Past and Fine Line are great album openers for their songs, the albums that they're on.
Uh-huh.
So Fine Line made my list.
Well, Ever Present Past was didn't open
It
them.
didn't open. No, it didn't. See, that's why I got too many pieces of paper here. You can't look at that. You can't even see them. Hold, oh, there it is. Um, all
Well,
right, so come on to me, cut me some what?
Alan wanted to say something just now because you were
I'm
raising.
sorry, Alan.
No, I was just saying that I picked Fine Line.
Oh,
Ah, okay.
all right.
Yeah, I should cross these out in color so I know we got Come On to Me and Cut Me Some Slack and Driving Rain, The End of the End, Find My Way, Fine Line. Okay. And then we have Friends to Go, which you picked, Ken. One of the great songs from one of his best albums, Chaos and Creation in the Backyard, which, if I may say, I think is his best album of the 21st century.
I agree.
Um, and from Driving Rain again, From a Lover to a Friend. It's an interesting song. It really takes several listens to kind of dig in and get in there, but once you're in there, it's just it's a song from a brilliant craftsman, from a lover to a friend.
The
And then we're
chorus,
going to
incredible. It just stays in your head. The chorus of that song.
this one might throw some folks because I'm sure Paul's disowned this. Heather from
Mhm.
Driving Rain. I love that from the day I heard Driving Rain for the first time, that was my favorite song. Um, that melody is catchy as heck. Doesn't even need the lyrics at the end. It would work as an instrumental. It's a theme song to something.
Hmm.
So Heather gets my next pick. And then tacked on to the end, I guess it would be, well, sort of the end of the one of the versions of Egypt Station, Hunt You Down, Naked, Sea Link. I love that guitar riff there at the beginning of Hunt You Down.
Hmm.
And I love when Paul kind of gets a little grungy from time to time, thus
Right.
picking Cut My Slack. Not cut my slack, but cut me some slack.
Right.
Let's see. I think I'm okay. Next is I didn't know whether this should be a D or an I, my alphabetizing. I don't know. From I think the best song in Egypt, at least my favorite off Egypt Station. I don't know. It's a powerful tune. Simple lyrics, which is one of my criticisms of Egypt Station is the words, but I don't know. It's a wonderful song and the piano reminiscent of a number of things he's done in the past. From I Don't Know, we go to Jenny Wren. Jenny Wren doesn't need an explanation. It's from Chaos. And then back to Driving Rain for Lonely Road, which Ken picked, if I'm not mistaken. You picked that one, Ken, right?
Yep. And Jay.
And then let's see, that was 13, I believe. 14 would be Long-Tailed Winter Bird from
Mhm.
McCartney 3. McCartney 3 is still an album that fascinates me because it's really not like anything he's done in the past. Individually, some of the songs are maybe lack a bit or aren't necessarily strong, but the whole feel of that album, I don't know. Maybe it was the environment that it was released in during COVID and I know for myself being, we were all locked down at home. Maybe I spent more time with McCartney 3 than I had with some of his other albums,
Hmm.
even going back, even beyond before the 21st century. Um, it's not much of a song, but again, it's another one of those little things that McCartney pulls together that, he can write while he's making dinner, and next thing you know, he's written this thing that gets stuck in your head. Long-tailed winterbird.
Yep.
New is next for the same exact reasons that Ken said. Beatlish, catchy as heck, and could have been sung on that would be heard on the Munsters with the you know
Da,
the
da, da, that.
anyway. 16 Only Mama Knows. It might be my number one song of Paul's in the 21st century. Only Mama Knows, great late period rock song coming off of Memory Almost Full. And I'll say this for the exception of Gratitude, which is one of my least favorite McCartney songs ever. Memory Almost Full comes very close to equaling Chaos and Creation in the Backyard for me. Anyway,
Can
so
I,
that was, we'll
can
say
I,
what?
you sound like me there, because Gratitude is one of the few McCartney songs that I really don't like at all. But I
Oh, I
love the
didn't know that. Yeah,
Almost Full. I love everything else except
yeah.
that. So,
I'm glad
So
you say that because a lot of people don't like Memories Almost Full at all, and I don't understand that.
yeah, yeah,
I
I
thought it
don't
was a
get that
very
either.
strong album.
That one may have taken I know Chaos and Creation, that took a number of listens before I got it.
Mm.
And really love the work that Nigel Godrich did producing that album and directing Paul. I don't know if Paul necessarily, or maybe Nigel for that matter, enjoyed the experience because they kind of in between, you know, you kind of get a sense if you listen that in between the words that there may not have been a harmonious relationship,
Mhm.
but Nigel Godrich succeeded in really pulling something out of McCartney he had never done before, that album. And I thought Memory Almost Full had the residual of chaos on that album. So I said Only Mama Knows, correct?
yes.
Yeah, okay. Next is Queenie Eye from New. Love that one a lot. Can't, catchy as heck. Riding into Jaipur
Hmm.
makes my list from Driving Rain. Remember when, again, when I heard Driving Rain, probably the first time, hearing Riding into Jaipur just took me back to the 60s, to something George would have done on Revolver with the Indian instrumentation. And I love when Paul stirs the pot and comes up with something completely out of left field, something completely different. And even though it's territory he's been at here and there through his career, riding into Jaipur was such a breath of fresh air for me. Um, Next up, and I hope my alphabet's right, Riding to Vanity Fair
Mm.
from Chaos and Creation in the Backyard, which first up was my favorite song from the album when it all started clicking for me. And then back to Driving Rain for Rinse the Raindrops, which is off the wall, and that's why I picked it. It's off the wall. The only thing about it, I keep wanting some blistering guitar solo, and it never happens. But McCartney's, I don't know, I don't know, Paul banged his head that day. I mean, he sounds like he was off the wall when he was recording that, and I love that about it. And I love the fact that in 2001, McCartney puts out an album that's got, what was it, 10 minutes long,
Hmm.
something like that, give or take a minute or two. I've lost count, and I hope I'm finished with 25. Um, Rinse the Raindrops, that was me from the medley side of Memory Almost Full. Save Us
Yes.
makes my list. And I close things out with a chaos tune. Too Much Rain. No, I think I said Jenny Wren, did I not? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
So Too Much Rain there. And I found one of the songs I wanted. And I did mark it off here. Back to Driving Rain again. Your Loving Flame. A little Wings-ish for me, that song.
Hmm.
Um, and that was, I believe, a single. It might have been one of the last singles to come off off that album, Driving Rain. A little Wings-ish gem stuck on Driving Rain. So I'm not sure if I think that might have been 24, but that's those are my picks.
Okay. Well, I definitely interesting list there. I would say a few things about your songs. I mean, for me anyway, Come On to Me is very catchy. I like the song. There are certain songs that unfortunately, and we've spoken about this before, sounds like Paul could write in 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
Dance Tonight is one of those songs for me. And I like Come On to Me. I just don't think of it as a great composition. That's me personally.
Yeah, it's not something I think typical of me to pick because that would be the song, and I probably did target it as something that was catchy, but it was a little lightweight.
Hmm.
But as I was putting this list together, I realized how much I liked it as a melody is just kind of a fun um, backwards traveler cufflink type of thing.
Okay. Sometimes I to my own fault, I kind of resent certain songs that Paul does live, like Come On to Me, when there were far better songs on Egypt Station to do. Like Dominoes, for example, something like that. I wish he had done something like that instead of Come On to Me. But I understand how catchy Come On to Me is, and for people that don't know the song, it's easy to get into something like that. And also, Cut Me Some Slack is a great performance, and I love the edginess of the musicians, and I especially love Paul's screaming voice, that helter-skelter voice. I just don't think it's a great composition. This is,
Okay, fair enough.
I love the fact you put From a Lover to a Friend in there because the chorus of that is really, it sticks in your head like so many of his other songs. Um, Heather is a gem. Definitely. And I like what you said about it. It could work as an instrumental. It could work as a movie song as an instrumental.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, Hunt You Down, I love. I just wish that it wasn't a medley and it was a longer version of Hunt You Down. So, yeah, it's some really interesting choices here. Only Mama Knows I should have put in there because it really rocks and it's got a Wings feel to it. And riding into Jaipur is very interesting. Um, Like most of them, I've never been crazy about Your Love and Flame for me personally. It's an interesting ballad. It's just he's written so many stronger songs.
Mhm.
I don't think he put as much of an effort into Your Loving Flame, but that's just me. We all have opinions. What did
You
you
mean that was me, right? Ha ha ha.
what did you think of Darren's choices, Alan?
Um,
They
I
suck.
thought they were pretty good. He actually chose, and well, both of you chose, a number of songs that I had crossed out on my list. So I feel it's good because I kind of wanted those songs to be included, but I wanted to make space for something else. So you guys included them, and that's great. I wouldn't have included Driving Rain because I don't think he should be encouraged to keep on doing counting songs. But I've said that before. You know my thing about his counting songs. But yeah, anyway, it's most of and yeah, like the cut me some slack I had on and I had off and I had on and off because I kind of like the grunginess. I like the impulse. And I like that collaboration. I wish they would do a few more things just to see what can come out of that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, uh, with very few exceptions, like Driving Rain. Uh, I kind of totally endorse your list, Darren.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we should do mine.
Yep.
Probably.
Yeah, okay. I did mine chronologically, like Ken. And like Ken again, started with Lonely Road. It's I think as Darren said, it's a great way to open the album, and I think it's a track that has certain tracks just have a staying power that not all tracks do, and that one does. That, however, is the only thing I chose from Driving Rain.
Hmm.
I then went on to Chaos and Creation, starting with Fine Line. I thought that, pretty much same thing as I said about Lonely Road works for Fine Line too. It just has kind of staying power. Uh, let's see, the third one, we're going to be in Chaos and Creation for a bit here. I had Too Much Rain, and I had crossed it out because I wanted to include Summer of '59 to have, some of the B-sides,
Okay.
Mhm.
and I liked Summer of '59. I kind of like the nostalgia of it and the, retrospective looking back, and that's it's triply redundant. Um, but yeah, it's a nice song. I like the uh it has the drive, the very close harmonies. I like that. And so that's Summer of '59. And then Jenny Wren.
Good pick.
I
Mhm.
think that so we're unanimous on Jenny Wren, right? That may be the first one we're unanimous on.
No, we're all unanimous on Lonely Road.
Oh,
We all
okay.
That's interesting.
Aha. I thought yeah, right. Okay. Let's see. I Want You to Fly. No one's picked that one.
Wow.
It's easygoing and sort of a nice McCartney melody, and I just sort of something about it just sort of caught my ear. Um, Wait a minute. We're already on to Memory Almost Full, and I only chose two, although I like pretty much all of that album. Um, I can't even remember Gratitude, so I'll have to listen to that again and see what it is that you dislike about it. Uh, but anyway, I started with Dance Tonight. It does seem like one of those songs you could have written in 5 minutes, but sometimes that's good. And it's catchy. Uh, Someone said, I think maybe Ken about Ever Present Past, that the video may have played into why you like it so much. And in the same way, Dance Tonight, that had a funny video, and and I like the sort of mandolin. You don't see Paul play the mandolin all that much, so that was a nice sort of change of pace. And then Ever Present Past, it's a really good song, and amazingly, I've only got a couple of songs from that album. I don't know why, but I did think of, The End of the End and some of those, and I don't know why I decided against them. I just sort of, realized, okay, I'm only down to like seven here, and I've got only 20, and there's a whole lot of albums left, In fact, when we get down to the bottom, McCartney 3, I think of McCartney 3 as probably his best album of the 21st century. Um, Although, Chaos and Creation comes close, Memory Almost Full comes close, Egypt Station has a lot of great stuff on it, He's the albums as a whole, really good stuff. Um, but so I was just trying to save space, and went on to Electric Arguments for Highway and Ring the Changes.
Highway was considered. I considered those actually those two.
And with Highway,
Yes.
I had I just picked the sort of standard Highway that's on the album, but there were a couple of remixes that came in the deluxe edition of Electric Argument, so that are longer or different kind of stuff going on, and I sort of tried to uh, maybe pick one of the odder ones, but I just decided to go with the standard Highway.
Mhm.
Uh, then okay, the only thing I have from I wasn't going to have anything from Kisses on the Bottom, but then it occurred to me that I really should have my Valentine. I do like the song. Um, we have tons of Paul's songs about Linda. We even have some about Heather, on Darren's list. Um,
Yep.
and I thought it would be nice to have a song about Nancy. So, but I also just like them. I mean, that's not a reason to choose it necessarily, but I really like it as a song. And also since lately it's been getting a lot more airplay because of Barbara Streisand. And I have to say, on our last show, I was kind of down on that, but I've been hearing it a lot more, and it's growing on me. Even Paul's voice in it is growing on me. I mean, I can see it as the concept of, make it whispery. Okay, fine. Um, yeah, you work with what you have, and this is what he has at the moment. And I was thinking in a way of kind of an argument I think Ken might make. Well, so what's the alternative? Do I want him to stop? No, I don't want him to stop. So, so this is what it is. Anyway, but I've chosen the Kisses on the Bottom version, not the Barbara Streisand version. Okay, and then on to New, another great album of the 21st century. I chose Save Us and New, the title track. A lot of energy in that track. It's like you say, it's a little Beatley. I don't really think of it so much as Beatley, but now that you mention it, I kind of see what you mean. But I just kind of like the drive behind that track and that performance. And I think he was playing it live for a while. I think he doesn't do it anymore, doesn't he?
The song new?
Yeah,
Yeah, he might still be doing it now. I got to look at the set list.
yeah,
As of last year, he was.
yeah. I saw him when that album came out, and he did a pop-up concert in Times Square. I went to that. It was just around the corner from where I worked,
Yeah.
and happened to have found out about it in time to get there. And that was kind of a fun show. Anyway, let's see. New Everybody Out There. Why did I choose that? I think I like the drive of it. You know, uh, with Paul, we're so used to him doing great ballads that when I'm looking for stuff to put on a list like this, I'm almost looking for the rockier, more driving things, rather than the straight ballads. So that was that. And then,
Well, can I jump in here 1 second? I want to ask both of you
yeah.
about um, New, the album.
Hmm.
Um, because I really think it's a half an album. The first half is so strong,
Hmm.
and then after the title track, it just totally loses momentum for me. The songs just none of them the rest of the way do anything for me. And I was listening again before earlier today with the some of the extra bonus tracks, and it just completely becomes a very bland batch of songs for me. And it yet the album starts out so strong. Do you like agree, disagree? No, do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of good stuff on it. Give it another chance.
I definitely think it's a solid album all the way through. Like I was saying, I think I Can Bet is an absolutely tremendous song. I like songs that have more of a experimental feel. Definitely Road is that. There when you hear songs, it's like, I never heard Paul do something like that before. Or, like I said earlier, I think, McCartney 2, Press to Play, Driving Rain have these experimental songs and experimental side to Paul, and then you see it creep up on albums on specific tracks like Road in particular. I like Appreciate. Appreciate bothered me in the beginning only because Paul used that whispering voice in it. It was very
Yeah.
filtered, but it really does work in that context. Um, I like Hosanna. Yeah, I like every song on that album, really. I think it's a solid album all the way through. The bonus tracks are very interesting. Um, especially Demon's Dance. Uh,
Yeah, I,
Hell to Pay is excellent. You know, very edgy, great vocals from Paul through it, very piano oriented, you know, pounds on the piano on that. No,
Queenie Eye.
I think it's all the way through. I think New is, I consider that a great album from him.
And I have
okay.
another one from it that isn't Queenie Eye, which I almost chose, but fortunately you did. Um, Looking at her.
Yeah.
It's it's a little spacey and strange, and it just sort of caught my ear, as I say, and it's it's not one that you hear that much. I've been listening a lot to Sirius XM, and they play a lot of solo tracks, and including a lot of solo tracks that I don't hear all that much usually. You hear Queenie Eye, you don't hear Looking at Her. So maybe now they'll start playing it. I don't know. And then from there, I'm going on to Egypt Station. Who cares? It's a nice message, anti-bullying. It has a great video with Emma Stone. The video makes it actually seem a little cooler than the song itself does, just because uh, sometimes, you think, okay, fine, no bullying message. It's, uh, but but on the video they made it a lot more abstract than that. All the dancers were the idiots that you're not supposed to be listening to, and
Those idiot dancers.
I noticed it just because in the credits at the end it says dancers slash idiots. So presumably that's what it's supposed to be. Um I don't know. One at least one of you chose I don't know as well. So
I did. I think, didn't you, Ken?
Yeah, we all did.
We
okay,
both did.
so there you go. That's it's a good song. Um Dominoes.
Okay.
Chose Dominoes. I think I'm the only one did
No,
that.
I did. I did.
Yeah, Ken did too. Yeah. See,
Okay.
Dominoes is one of those songs. It doesn't, I don't dislike it. It just,
It has a very typical McCartney style melody. I mean, when I listen to it, it's sort of like, okay, what is that like? I can't say it sounds like X song, but
right.
it has moves that are the kind of thing he's done in a lot of different songs. The way the melody shape is, the way the melody parts are repeated and organized, it just sort of has that McCartney signature for some reason. Uh, and then of course, despite repeated warnings, this is, we used to think that, okay, John is the political one, Paul isn't political at all. And then he did, okay, give Ireland back to the Irish. And then there was a long span before there was anything else. And then in 93, there were a number of not necessarily political, but issue songs about, experimentation on animals and that kind of stuff, where he feels very strongly and comes out and does a song about it. With Despite Repeated Warnings, it's about the environment, environmental concerns, and the fact that, well, in this he has it as sort of an allegory with the captain of a ship who is crazy and won't listen to anybody about the repeated warnings. And Paul himself has said that this is about our current president. Um, so, for what that's worth, all I can say is that for me personally, if Bip Bop was about that, I'd like it. Anyway,
It
um,
is.
yeah,
Alan, you made me find my missing. Remember, I said a song was missing?
yeah,
Just despite repeated warnings,
okay.
where I wrote it here on my page, I just glossed right over it. But and that's a song that it's like a medley in itself. There's just so
Yeah,
many movements in there that I
it
really
has
like
lots
how
of
it
different
builds.
sections. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and it's, it has a bit of fantasy stuff too, because in his version, they tie the captain up and mutiny. So there. Uh, And from there, we go on to McCartney 3, which, I could include the whole album if we had, more than 20. I really like that album. But I've chosen only a mere three because we only have 20 and there's a lot of albums before it. Um, Winterbird slash When Winter Comes. I like Long-Tailed Winterbird too, but with this one, you get a little bit of Long-Tailed Winterbird and a whole other song. So it seemed like a bargain. I like the sort of bucolic imagery, about the foxes getting into the chickens and, the whole deal of, Paul and his farm kind of thing. It just had a certain charm that I really liked, and it's nicely written.
That was another one I considered for my list.
Hmm. Okay. And
Kiss of Venus.
hmm,
Like the melody, like the instrumentation. It's just sort of nice imagery. And then finally Seize the Day. Seize the Day is another one of his sort of environmental things. There he's sort of envisioning, almost the sun burning out, in the bridge. Um, the bridge is great. When the cold winds blow, when that comes in, the song changes, and I just really like the sound of that. Really like the chord progression, like the melody, everything about it. But like I say, I mean, the whole album to me really works very well. So I'm looking forward to McCartney 4.
Alan, can I ask you something?
No.
No, I knew he was going to say that.
Why is McCartney 3, in your opinion, the best album he's done in this century?
Um, I think just because I like almost I think every song on it, really. And with the others, there were a couple that I don't like that much or like less or whatever. Um, like I say, the other albums since 2000 are also quite strong. Um, and maybe it's like Darren said, maybe it's during the pandemic and, maybe listen to it more. I also reviewed this one, so I definitely listened to it more.
Hmm.
Um, So yeah, for whatever reason, I just had a hard time choosing songs from it because uh, I could have chosen almost all of them, if not all of them. Yeah.
Well, it's tough to pick all these songs because all these albums have really good songs that we're gonna have to not include in our lists. And because I didn't have any songs from McCartney 3, not that I didn't want them on there. I just like these other songs more.
Hmm.
But I do love the experimental feel, which McCartney 2, and McCartney 3 all have, but they're all very different in their own way.
Yeah.
And just the sound and the vibe of McCartney 3 is different from the other two. You might say it reminds you a little bit of the first McCartney album.
Mhm.
But I like the variety on it a lot. Women and Wives is very different. Paul singing in that low voice. And Deep Deep Feeling is extremely experimental with all these different songs interwoven, which McCartney's done many times already.
Mhm.
But it still sounds very different for him. And I just wanted to say one thing about, what Darren was asking about new. New sounds like he just recorded it. It sounds really fresh to me. And there are certain songs, and we've commented before on this and Talk More Talk, that when McCartney toured in 76 and he relied on Band on the Run, Venus and Mars, and Speed of Sound for the bulk of the material, those are songs that, for whatever reason, really worked well live. And I think the songs on New translate very well as live songs. Whether it's Save Us, I can hear Alligator any day as a live song. Everybody out there, which he also did. Certain songs like that, I can bet. I don't know, that it just sounds really fresh to me. Um,
I
I'm
think
very,
it was probably because of the people he brought in to produce. A lot of them were contemporary, um, and gave a new kind of feel to it,
hmm,
because of all the um, you know wait a minute. Yeah, no, I lost my train of thought. I apologize. All the younger producers, contemporary producers, I think that helped with the sound of that album.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you
and
could,
he always even an album like New, which, like I say, the second half of the album really doesn't do much for me. He gets a lot of points in my book because at this point in his career, he's wants to bring in new people to work with for new sounds, and he's influenced by what's happening today. He's not stuck in a time capsule,
yeah.
you know, and it's helped even some of his lesser songs. New is an interesting listen, I will say that,
Mhm.
and I won't hesitate to listen to it. And might click with me out of the blue one days. Stranger things have happened. Um,
And yet, for all these collaborations with younger people and all that, none of us picked 2, 3 seconds or all day or whatever it was called. Uh,
4 or 5 seconds.
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, also, I had on the in the margins here, when I was thinking about, I knew we weren't going to choose covers, so I just sort of wrote them down. But apart from the stuff on Kisses on the Bottom, he put out Maybe Baby on a Buddy Holly tribute, and I'm partial to your Abracadabra on what's his name, Ian Dury, an Ian Dury
Yes.
tribute.
That's a
oh
really,
yeah, 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 yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah,
by the way,
I wear yeah new boots and panties. Is it?
yeah. But Maybe Baby, his cover was for the movie Maybe Baby.
Hmm.
Worked on that with Jeff Lynne. He did a version of It's So Easy that you were really,
Right, right, right. Yeah.
so yeah. It's easy to get him confused.
Yeah, I know. You know, um, I should be working so much when I'm his age.
It's interesting. Between the three of us, there's, well, 4 songs that we all voted for. There's Lonely Road, Jenny Wren, New, and I Don't Know.
Hmm, interesting.
There's only 4, which, it's not as much duplication as you'd think.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've done a show about an album, and maybe we should revisit some of these at some point. I mean, we always do them when they're new. But we used to occasionally, let's look at Rotogravure, or whatever. And we haven't done that in a while. And I would say that, if we were to start doing that again, some of these albums of Paul's from the last 25 years are certainly worth another look in greater detail, than just, picking a couple of tracks off the album and on a list of 20 from the whole period. So I'd be into that.
Okay.
Just saying.
Like I've said many times, sometimes you stay away from a certain album for a while, and maybe you thought it was an okay album, and there's certain songs that you like, and you listen to it later, and you think more highly of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you listen with a different set of ears. So, you know, That's what art is all about. Your perceptions can change, whether it's more positive or more negative later on.
Yeah,
You don't know for sure how you're going to feel.
right.
But
Yeah.
uh,
So you think that wraps it up?
Rap. Yes.
so, yeah.
Okay, then. So let's go around and tell people what we're up to and how they can contact us. Let's start with Ken.
Okay, you can always email me at everylittlething@att.net. You can friend me on my Facebook page at Ken Michaels. My own YouTube channel, which is Ken Michaels Radio. In the last couple of weeks, I've had some very interesting shows. Most recently, I just did a special tribute to Joey Molland from Badfinger, who passed away in March. And I had as my guests Billy J. Kramer, also Mark Hudson. Our own Darren DeVivo was there, and Drew Hill, who is the keyboard player in the Beatles tribute band Liverpool. And anytime you go to the Fest for Beatle fans, Liverpool is the band to watch there, and they back up many of the guests that are scheduled at the fest as well. So we all shared our memories of Joey Molland and talked about his music with Badfinger, maybe some of his solo stuff. And it just so happens that not that long ago, there was a special tribute concert for Joey Molland that took place at the Cutting Room in New York City. Mark Hudson was a part of it, as was Drew Hill. And Steve Holly also played at the show. Steve almost made it for this tribute on my channel. He just couldn't make it because he had a session to do. And it was a wonderful tribute. Between that and the one for Denny Lane that I did on Ken Michaels Radio on my channel, very proud of those tribute shows. So check it out if you can. And for those of you who are Badfinger fans or fans of Joey, go back to my very first show on Ken Michaels
Hmm.
Radio. It's my interview with Joey Molland, who at the time had what was his final album, which was produced by Mark Hudson, called Be True to Yourself. And so
Hmm.
we talk a bit about that album as well, and had a great time with everyone. And Darren, of course, gave his own opinions about Joey's music and his memories, and remembered that he interviewed Joey long, long time ago.
First interview I ever did.
Yeah, isn't that something? Also, I did an interview with Beatley Tone, who has his own channel, very popular Beatles-centric channel, just called Beatley Tone. And since we've been doing all these shows for Venus and Mars, which just celebrated its 50th anniversary, we did one here on the history, everything leading up to the release of Venus and Mars. On Talk More Talk, we just talked about the songs and gave our opinions about it as an album. And with Beatley Tone, I remembered that several shows back that he was on, he said that Venus and Mars was his favorite Paul McCartney or Wings album of all time. So I thought, why not invite him back and explain why he feels that way about Venus and Mars? So those shows are on Ken Michaels Radio. Please subscribe to the channel if you can. Talk More Talk, my other podcast show with Darren and Kid O'Toole. Um, There'll be a new show coming next week. By the way, Beatley Tone is on another podcast show, which is called Hands Across the Water. It's a brand new one with Andy Nichols and Kyle Hand. So you can see him in that podcast as well as his own channel. My radio show, Every Little Thing. There's always shows out there to listen to, but the easiest way to listen is to go to WFDU's website, WFDU.FM, go to their archivals page, type in Every Little Thing, and there's two shows there that you can listen to. Each show is on the website for 2 weeks. Please check that out and check out the radio station. They have tremendous programming all throughout the week. Most of the shows they run are oldie shows with 50s, 60s, 70s music, a lot of stuff that it's hard to hear on the radio these days, but they have it at WFDU. And of course, there's my website, kenmichaelsradio.com, which has Beatles trivia contests, and you can win your choice of one of 10 prizes all the time, including, well, not that one, the McCartney Legacy. It's volume 2. I have a copy to give away on,
Blue.
yeah, that one that Allan's pointing to. So, yeah, that's what's going on with me.
Okay, Darren.
You can catch me at WFUV Monday through Thursday nights, starting at 10 p.m. till 2 in the morning, Saturday afternoons from 1 until 4 on WFUVs in New York City at 90.7 FM. And you could stream anywhere, listen to us anywhere at WFUV.org. Also, we have an app, which I think is a simple case of downloading it and you can listen there. And I have a couple of Facebook pages. If you want to reach out and connect with me individually, please do. Darren DeVivo, send me a friend request or go to Darren DeVivo, WFUV DJ and Beatle podcaster and click follow or like or whatever the button is called this week. And it's a good way to keep in touch. And I haven't been posting much lately, but I'm usually always throwing music stuff up there and whatnot about a bunch of things. So that's my story.
Okay. Well, for me, you can contact me on Facebook either at Allan Kozinn or Allan Kozinn Remixed. I don't go there an awful lot, but if you send me a message, I'll see it and I'll respond. And of course, we post the shows on Facebook, on the group Facebook page, which is Things We Said Today video podcast. Be sure to check that out. Ken also posts other stuff there, and Darren too. So let's see, you can write to all of us by email at thingswesaidtodayradioshow@gmail.com. Feel free to send ideas and questions, anything you want to send. Send money. It doesn't really work in email, does it? Sending money. Well, it can. Right. You can follow us on Twitter, kind of. It's at Things We Said Fab, and on BlueSky at Things We Said Today. And that basically does it for me, too. Okay, so thank you so much for listening. And on behalf of Ken Michaels and Darren DeVivo, I'm Allan Kozinn, and we'll see you next time.